Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to everyone. I am Rashdan, the current Vice President 1 of Persatuan Saintis Muslim Malaysia, PERINTIS. I would like to welcome all of you to our second event of PERINTIS Public Forum series with the title today, What's Actually Behind University Rankings? This forum is jointly organized by PERINTIS and Academy Professor Malaysia, APM. Before we start, I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Ahmad Athif Muhammad Faudzi, the President of PERINTIS, to deliver his welcoming remarks.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to everyone. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Thank you very much, Dr. Rashdan Saad, our Vice President and our Master of Ceremony for today's session. It is our great pleasure for PERINTIS to organize the talk today under PERINTIS Public Forum series with the title of What's Actually Behind University Ranking, co-organized by Academy Professor Malaysia. In PERINTIS, we have three strategic thrusts of knowledge translation, or we call as Wakaf Ilmu, and we have capacity building as well as science and technology for society. And this program, PERINTIS Public Forum series, is one of the program under knowledge translation strategic trust. So today we have our four distinguished guests. The first panel will be Professor Dato Sri Dr. Daing Muhammad Nasir, Daing Ibrahim, the President of APM, and also the former Vice Chancellor of Universiti Malaysia Pahang. Our second panel, Professor Dr. Noorsaadah Abdul Rahman, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Research and Innovation, Universiti Malaya, and the third panel, our distinguished speaker from UTM, Professor Emeritus Professor Dato IR Dr. Muhammad Azraai Kassim. This session will be moderated by Professor Dato IR Dr. Muhammad Saleh Jaafar, the council member and head of STI cluster under APM. So we pray to Allah SWT so that our program will be running smoothly and hopefully it will be benefiting all viewers. So with that, I would like to pass over back to Dr. Rashdan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Athif. With the recent announcement of the QS World Ranking, we can see many reactions and also questions were being asked on the topic of university rankings. What are the criteria being assessed? How do they rank the universities? What impact does it bring towards the overall education ecosystem, especially in Malaysia? So to answer these questions, we have a lineup of very distinguished speakers that will be sharing their thoughts based on their vast experience in the Malaysian higher education landscape. This session will be moderated by Professor Dato IR Dr. Muhammad Saleh Jaafar. So I'll introduce Professor Dato IR Dr. Saleh first. So Professor Dato IR Dr. Saleh Muhammad Saleh Jaafar is a professor at Faculty of Engineering, UPM. He is the fellow and council member and the head of STI cluster, Academy Professor Malaysia. He is also the fellow of the Academy Science Malaysia, fellow of the Institution of Engineers Malaysia, former deputy VC for RAN Innovation UPM, former advisor for the Malaysian Education Blueprint of the Higher Education, former director for University Transformation Program under the Ministry of Higher Education, and also the former Deputy Director General, Department of Higher Education. Without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Dato IR Dr. Muhammad Saleh Jaafar to moderate this session.
Rahmanirrahim. Dr. Ahmad Faudzi, Dr. Ahmad Athif Faudzi, President PERINTIS, respected panelists, members of the academia, students, and all participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all. Welcome to the public forum, What is Behind University Ranking, which is co-organized by PERINTIS and Academy Professor Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, we have heard so much discussions about university ranking. There are always strong opinions on university ranking, what it means, and whether it is all necessary at all, or whether it could be detrimental even to our higher education system and delivery. But we know that ranking is here to stay. And I believe the debate, the discussion, and differences of opinion will continue, which is actually a good sign and a good thing for our higher education system, right? But we always hope for a healthy debate and discussions, and hopefully with a noble intention to see a real progress and impact to our higher education system. And perhaps it is also important for us to relate this university ranking with the higher education blueprint, yeah? Where ranking is actually closely related to shift number 8 on global prominence. So ranking is actually one of the agenda, or one small part of the total agenda for global prominence that we need to have in our higher education system. And today, we will hear the views from 3 well-known academia, and they represent, I believe, from three different type of university that we have in the country. Yeah, we have panel number 1, Professor Datuk Sri Dr. Daing Muhammad Nasir, Daing Ibrahim, who is currently president of Academy Professor Malaysia, and a former vice chancellor of Universiti Malaysia Pahang. And we have panelist number 2, Professor Dr. Noorsaadah Abdul Rahman, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation, Universiti Malaya. And we have panel number 3, Professor Dato Engineer Dr. Muhammad Azraai Kassim, former Vice Chancellor of UiTM and currently a Professor of UTM. So we will hear their views on what is actually behind university ranking. And we will start with each of the panel will give their 10-minute views, and then we will follow our session with 30 minutes question and answers. And hopefully you can write down your question and answers in the comment sections of this live telecast. And hopefully we will have a wrapping up by each one of them for 3 minutes after we finish the question and answer session. So I think let us start with panel number 1, Professor Datuk Sri Dr. Daing Nasir. But before we give the forum to him, let me just introduce to him shortly. I know that many of us already know him. I mean, those in academia should recognize Professor Datuk Sri Daing. And he is actually a professor in accounting and management at the Faculty of Industrial Management, Universiti Malaysia Pahang, currently still serving. And of course, he was a former Vice Chancellor of UMP, probably I think one of the longest serving Vice Chancellors in Malaysian University, and one of the core member that helped propel Malaysian technical universities into where we are today from the college university days. And of course, before that, he was the Dean of School of Management for many years, and became the Director of Advanced and Management Center. So he is actually a Chartered Accountant by profession and Fellow of Certified Practicing Accountant of Australia. His area of expertise are management and accounting, control, corporate governance, and strategic management. Datuk Sri Dr. Daing, the floor is yours now. Thank you.
Terima kasih, thank you, Prof. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. Thank you, Prof. Dato Muhammad Saleh Jaafar, Council Member and Head of Science and Technology Cluster, APM, or Academy Professor Malaysia, and our moderator for today's forum, Associate Professor Associate Professor Senior Dr. Ahmad Athif, Muhammad Faudzi, President of PERINTIS, Professor Nordin Yahya, coordinator of today's forum, my fellow distinguished panelists, Professor Dr. Noorsaadah, Abdul Rahman, and Professor Emeritus Dato Insinyur Dr. Muhammad Azraai Kassim, members of PERINTIS and APM, participants, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would like to thank the organizers of today's forum on what's actually behind university ranking for inviting me to share my understanding of and views on universities ranking. I'm quite sure most of us have been exposed to rankings and ranking system over many years, not just universities, but rankings, other rankings in many forms. Anyway, whether we like it or not, rankings, not necessarily university ranking, get noticed from world's 50 best restaurants for foods, hotels and airlines for travel industry. And there are also indices for integrity, happiness, and many others. And global competitive index for nation, for example, and it is a ranking which is of interest to national leaders and business leaders. Is perhaps one of the ranking system that I personally watch and follow from time to time over the years. Now, each of these ranking or even ratings for that matter involves measurements. And global competitive index, I would like to dwell on it just maybe a minute on it. Global competitive index, for example, is an indicator of economic prospects among 141 countries as of today. Over the years, it has increased from fewer to more and more over the years. And this GCI, for example, it is now known as GCI 4.0 for very obvious reasons. It came to be known as GCI 4.0 in 2019. And I think for very obvious reason, because it has to capture the current state of the global state of economy, technology, innovation, and so on. And it is a product of an aggregation of 103 individual indicators. See how many? Now, derived from a combination of data from international organizations as well as from the World Economic Forum's Executive Opinion Survey, meaning that it is drawn from both secondary data as well as primary data. And I'm trying to make a parallel here so that my discussion later can sort of make a reference to this. Now, the indicators are organized into 12 pillars: institution infrastructure, ICT adoption, microeconomic stability. These three indicators, they cluster into what they call enabling environment that enables the nation. Health and skills come under human capital. Product market, labor market, financial system, market size under market, and business dynamism and innovation capability under innovation ecosystem. So for today's forum, I do not intend to go into the discussion on whether rankings are accurate reflection or the best overall measure of universities' global and regional standing, because I feel that such debate will go on, I have no doubt, globally and as well as definitely in Malaysia, as mentioned by our moderator. In fact, during my two participation in the QS conferences in 2017 and 2018, I think, I have been involved, I have been invited to speak on both sides of the divide. In 2017, proposed the motion that it is a good thing. Well, it has a specific title, but generically it is a good thing in one conference, and opposed the similar but not the same, similar motion, equivalent motion in another conference a year later. So what I'm trying to say here is we can argue our way, we can argue from where we come from. It doesn't matter, and that's why this debate will go on. And according as mentioned by our moderator, it's a good thing. It's okay. Let's go on debating. So what's actually behind university ranking? So to address this question, let me begin by making a reference to the latest ranking exercise reported globally, of course. The QS World University Ranking announced on June 8th that saw the result of 1,300 universities from around the world. And it seemed that this year's university ranking is the largest ever, and being assessed according to 6 metrics. I'm just going over quickly because I'm sure many of you know it, but just to reinforce what the content, the measurements represent. So let me just quickly go over the metrics, for they represent what actually or partially behind the rank of each university. Now, like previous years, the participating universities continue to be evaluated according to one, the academic reputation will represent 40%. Now, it seems that the highest weighting of metric is allotted to an institution academic reputation score. I mean, the reputation. I mean, it's understandably, but that's what it is. But of course, it varies from one ranking to another. The issue might be different, in the subject matter might be different. So based on an academic survey, it collates the experts' opinion of over 130,000 individuals in the higher education space regarding teaching and research quality at the university, at the world's universities. So it's a primary data perception and under by the survey method. The next is the employer reputation, which represent 10%. You see, one can reasonably assume that students will continue to perceive a university education as a means by which they can receive valuable preparation for employment market. I think we can safely assume that. So it follows that assessing how successful institutions are at providing that preparation is essential for a ranking whose primary audience is the global student. And this employer reputation metric is based on over 75,000 responses to the QS employee survey, asking employers to identify those institutions from which they source the most competent, innovative, and effective graduates. Next is the faculty-student ratio. You see, teaching quality is typically cited by students as the metric of highest importance to them when comparing institutions using ranking. It is difficult to measure, but it was determined that measuring teacher-student ratio is the most effective proxy metric for teaching faculty. Yes, the word here is proxy. You see, in social science, we do not have a very objective, calibrated equipment to measure things. We have proxies, we conceptualize, and we try to make the best out of it. So it assesses the extent to which institutions are also able to provide students with meaningful access to lecturers and tutors, and recognizes that a high number of faculty members per student will reduce the teaching burden on each individual academy. Well, teaching burden contributing to academic teaching quality is arguable, but it is quite a safe assumption. Next is the citation per faculty, represent 20%. Teaching is one pillar of an institution mission. Another is research output. So the measurement used for institutional research quality is citation per faculty. So the calculation is by taking the total number of citations received by all papers produced by an institution across a 5-year period by the number of faculty members at that institution. Well, they have, statistically, they will normalize these based on discipline. I will not go into that, but rest assured that they have put enough, sufficient scientific and statistical method to take care of the biases and all that. So that's something that we can take comfort. Now, it seems that, and finally, of course, international faculty ratio and international student ratio. You see, a highly international university requires and confers a number of advantages. It demonstrates an ability to attract faculty and students from across the world, which in turn suggests that it possesses a strong international brand. So it implies a highly global outlook, providing both students and staff alike with international environment, facilitating exchange of best practices and belief. So in doing so, it provides students with international sympathies and global awareness. That is something that is, as you know, part of soft skill, increasingly valuable to employers. So both of these metrics are worth 5%. The example that I have attributed to is WEUR, or World University Ranking. The Asia University Ranking has a slight variation, subject ranking has slight variation, let alone other ranking systems like Shanghai Jiao Tong, THES, they have variation, but more or less the parameters are more or less similar. It's just a matter of weightage, depends on the philosophy of perhaps by the rating, the owner of the ranking system. So now let me turn to what happened at the institution level. You see, for a university that has put itself into a ranking exercise, it has to do its best to attain favorable ranking. Just like the global competitive index, it is part of the ecosystem of the higher education now. Yeah, it is part of the ecosystem of higher education. So normally, when from our own experience, once we go into the ranking, so that's what's behind this whole exercise is that normally we form a task force based on the owners of the data, regular meetings to update progress, data screening to ensure consistency, and data audit to ensure validity and reliability. I think I don't have to go into detail how do we do it with cross checks and things like that. And of course, we need to have strategies, because at the end, once you put yourself into a ranking, now you're actually addressing the stakeholders, and you have to do your best by, of course, following the protocol and the operating definition or what have you. So there are some strategies to ensure that we know what we are getting into, so that we are, we do the right thing, and we always do things correctly. So when we participate in discussion, in conferences, seminars on how we do things at the university, comparing notes. So we issue newsletters so that people know what we are doing, because when we talk about reputation, it's very important that people know what you are doing and what other people are doing. So it's a two-way, it's a communication that going on between universities. We have alumni high tea that to explain where we are, where we're going, the kind of support that we need from alumni. Employers luncheon because it involves employers assessment. Even without ranking, we still consulted employers, because we need to market, we need to place our students with or without ranking. Provide research grant where external collaborator is required, because we need that network and our staff collaborating with other people. And internally, we explain, we communicate to everyone that what this ranking is all about. It is about reporting to our stakeholders how we are doing, and we will be compared with others, but maintaining what we are doing. Research publication award, you want to make sure we recognize real good performance, so that it becomes a culture to the university. Work closely with alumni department and industry, the JPA and all that, and publicize stories and newsletters that we do. I think for many years, university seems to be quite insular, not quite ready to communicate to the world what they are doing. So I think we have changed that culture, and that is also good for ranking. Basically, we're telling people what we do. So my take on what is actually behind this whole ranking is, from the institution perspective, to me, it is essentially a reporting process that in many ways holding the institution accountable to stakeholders. And you can see from the criteria. Never mind the outcome, whether you're ranked high, low. the fact that one strives to look good in the eyes of the stakeholders. That is important, because we exist because of our stakeholders, like in the government, the taxpayers, the students, the parents, the industries, the employers. So it brings people together in our university for a common aim, despite the differences in the institution divided by faculties and discipline. It's an appreciation of the realization of the concept, what we call, I would describe as substance over form, events, transaction, outputs, and outcomes appear and surface in various ways. But what matters is the substance, and that substance that counts. So just like reporting done for businesses, reporting in a ranking exercise should meet the criteria of, again, coming from my own discipline, true and fair. True means, yes, they actually happen. They are actually a result and outcome of hard work, substantive work, meaningful work, and it is reported fairly in a way that is acceptable conventionally. That's what it means. And it is a constructive, competitive exercise. Constructive, competitive, we need a little bit of competition in life so that we are always on our toes, but constructively learning from each other how other people do things. So my description of the participation and reporting in the ranking exercise is, I like to describe it, and or advise and tell the world, or tell my fellow university citizens that we will do the right things, and we do it right. Yeah, sticking to the university mission and vision. Yeah? That is something that no university should compromise, because without ranking, universities have got their mission and statement long before the ranking exercise actually began many years ago. Stick to your knitting, pursuing your niche. Every university in Malaysia has got their niche, even even globally too. Observe and the university's core values. Okay. So now, if I still have time, Datuk Saleh, maybe I need about 3 or 4 minutes more. Boleh lagi?
Yeah, I think maybe 2 minutes, Datuk Sri.
Okay, all right. So let me now raise and discuss selected contemporary and imaging issues, which I think the ranking system, as a dynamic tool or vehicle, whatever you call it, may be able to have a role in addressing them. So, Dr. Rashdan, can we upload the PowerPoint, please?
Maybe quickly, Datuk Sri, yeah?
So while what's uploading, so we are facing, the world is changing. The world is changing, the issues technologically, socially, and nothing. Now, what is being captured today appears to be things that are urgent and important today. And given the problem, the challenges that we will be confronting over the years, and I believe that any ranking system, if they were to be benefiting the university and the stakeholders of the university, it should capture how it should benefit society at large. Presumably today's metrics in the ranking take that into consideration, even though not everything, but what matters most now. But I think there's room for ranking system, for metric to play its role. Dah upload belum?
Datuk Sri, I'm afraid that we are right. Maybe you can, it is already uploaded. Maybe you can go through quickly, a minute or two.
Okay. Maybe I can use this. I can use it in my wrap up.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that will do. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I will take only about 3 or 4 minutes, so I'll do it in the wrap up, or 5 minutes. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So
thank
you, Datuk Sri. Speaking from your wide experience in managing universities and knowing the functions university and the missions university and the importance of ranking, I think you probably, one thing that struck me was when you mentioned that ranking is actually our life are all surrounded by ranking, from choosing the food to choosing the best restaurant and hotels, and it just part and parcel. Of course, going all the way to the World Competitiveness Index. Well, we will talk about maybe we'll discuss more during the question and answer session if our participant would like to know more about the instruments that you have just explained, the criteria and the indicators. Maybe we can now move on to our second panel, Professor Noorsaadah Abdul Rahman. Before we give her 10 minutes time, just allow me to introduce her quickly. She is currently the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation at Universiti Malaya, and she is responsible for the development and strategic enhancements of university's research and innovation profile, with the aim that to enhance research quality, capacity, and capability across the university. So in addition to this, the DVC's office is also responsible for building and managing relationships with internal and external stakeholders, including the industries and the community. So prior to the Deputy Vice Chancellor's positions, Professor Noorsaadah was the Director of the Institute of Research Management and monitoring, which monitors and coordinates the research activities in the university. Professor Noorsaadah, you're speaking from nation's #1 university in the country. In fact, OIC #1, #1 university in the whole OIC university countries, and people only know this through ranking. Perhaps please say your views about what's behind university ranking, especially for university like Universiti Malaya. Professor Noorsaadah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Datuk Saleh, Datuk Saleh Jaafar, moderator for today's forum. Associate Professor Dr. Ahmad Athif, President of PERINTIS, Professor Noordin, coordinator of today's forum, my distinguished fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning, and thank you very much. I would like to first thank the organizer, especially Prof. Noordin, who actually invited me here and kind of relentlessly pursuing, asking me to come and be one of the panel in the forum. The topic that we are discussing today is what's actually behind the ranking. Just to put into context, there are many rankings out there. As Datuk Saleh mentioned earlier, we live our life, actually with ranking. Starting from when we were young, we were ranked. When you go to school, at the end of the year, are you #1, #2, #3? You are ranked. So there are many ranking systems out there. So in universities ranking, there are a few systems or a few agencies out there. May I have the second slide, please, Dr. Rashdan? Just to show you, some of the numbers, some of the, ranking systems out there. We are very familiar with, the QS ranking system. There are two types of ranking there that most of the Asian university participates in or are actually ranked in. The Asia University Ranking, the World University Ranking, which just come out recently. Then the other one that is also quite, I'm not sure whether it's popular, but it's something that everybody tend to actually also look at most times is the THE, the Times Higher Education University Ranking. They have the Times the Asia University Ranking, the World University Ranking, and recently they have the THE Impact University Impact Ranking that measures our performance in the in ensuring the SDGs being met. Then we have the other one that is equally famous, the previously Shanghai Zhaotung ranking. Now it's called ARWU, or the Academic Ranking of World Universities. Then new other ones, actually one of the older one, I think is the best global university ranking. That actually just ranks originally the US universities, but now it has included rankings from 80 to 100 other countries in the world. The the latest one would be the World University Ranking Center, which is actually the Center for World University Ranking in Jeddah. It started in Jeddah in 2003. The round university ranking, which is actually one of the most recent and comprising, ranking of about more than 1,000 universities, unlike, of course, QS and THE, which are amongst the oldest. These ranking all have different criteria. So, when you actually suddenly come up with a position of where you are in the ranking, a lot of people started asking, why is it that you are in one rank, higher than the other rank, in the other ranking system, you're lower. The criteria are very different, as mentioned by Prof. Datuk Daing just now. Although the areas or disciplines are almost the same. If we go to the next slide, please. Okay, here's one example, and obviously I use Universiti Malaya as the example. Okay, if you look at the Datuk Daing has actually mentioned in great detail about the criteria in the QS, or the indicators actually in the QS ranking for the world and for the Asia. So I'm just putting on the world here. The indicators for QS ranking that world looks at is the academic reputation, which actually is 40% of the whole ranking criteria. And again, as mentioned by Prof. Dato Daing just now, this is basically perceptions of how good your university is by your peers and also members of the other university, I believe. And then there's 10% on the employer's reputation, and again this is again perception and also in experience of employers. And for Malaysia, it used to be a global employer, but now it's cut into certain percentage for local employers and certain percentage for a global employer. Citation per faculty, this comes up to about 20%, and this actually measures our presumably the impact of our research output in terms of how much citation is being how much garnered by our publications, and for QS is actually a 5-year window for every year of ranking. Faculty to student ratio carries about 20%, international faculties carry about 5%, and international student carries about 5%. For THE, the criteria is basically the same. I did not go into detail into the teaching, into the indicators, because the indicator is slightly more detailed. Okay, but the teaching, which equates to about 30%, research and citation, each 30%, that actually makes a total of research, indicators or research criteria 60%, as compared to QS, where the research indicator is probably around about 20 to 30%. International outlook it's only about 7.5% in the THE, and industry income is about 2.5%. The Shanghai Jaltung is very difficult in terms of its criteria. It looks at the same criteria: teaching, research, internationalization, etc. But the indicators, the one I put here is actually the indicator for quality of education. It looks at its alumni, whether any of the alumni has won, the Nobel Prize or the Field Prize. And it also looks at the staff, the quality of staff, whether they have member of Nobel Prize winners or field medalists as member of their staff. That carries about for the alumni is 10%, and for the staff is about 20%. For research, they looked at highly cited staff, which is about 20%, and papers in nature and science only, which is about 20%. So again, 40% in terms of research output, and also 60% in terms of research, quality here they look at, because they also have another 20% criteria for papers published in the Science Citation Index or the Social Science Citation Index. Okay, And they again look at per capita performance in terms of research output, in terms of citation, as well as number of publication per staff, which carries about 10% marks. The latest one is the round RUR, which is the round university ranking, takes into consideration teaching, research, international diversity, and in this case, there's financial sustainability. And indeed, their criteria is a little bit a little bit different, but it's actually closer to the local MIRA assessment that we look at. Malaysia, we have MIRA, Setara, etc., etc. We do not exactly rank, we rate, so it's rating. But the RUR actually has a closer, closer indicators to MIRA in terms of its research, and also teaching, because they ask about, the number of PhD students who graduated on time, the total number of, PhD students graduated per, staff. So that are the indicators within the university. So when actually Universiti Malaya do not really participate in, for example, the Shanghai indication ranking or the RUR ranking, but as mentioned earlier by both Datuk Saleh and Datuk Daing, ranking is actually here to stay, whether we like it or not. It's a necessary evil, I would call it. So whether you like it or not, you'll be ranked. So the Shanghai Xiaotong and the round university ranking actually do rank Universiti Malaya. So you look at the ranking position that we have. Okay, for RUR, ARWU, okay, in 2020 and 2021, we rank in the same band, which is 300 to 400 out of the 500 universities that they actually list down. I do not know how many they rank, but they only, most cases they only list out up to 500, except maybe QS and THE, which lists a little bit more than that. QS I think listed about 1,000 something, because they have more that actually participates in the ranking. So in RUR, again, we were ranked 86 in 2020 and 113 in 2021. Mainly because of the criteria, and but we did not actually provide any data, so we have no idea of where the data that they got from. In terms of research, I can understand, because there's a lot of databases out there that they actually took into. But in the RUR, they probably I don't know where they got the data for financial sustainability, for example, because that is something that we want to that we have to provide for QS and THE. Because of this, I would like to, that's why Universiti Malaya, as Dato Daing mentioned just now, actually do participate and ensure that the data that goes in is correct, because, or else we, I think being the oldest university and perhaps one of the first one that was ranked, had the experience of when we were ranked first, very early on, when the QS, THE was one and they started it. We were suddenly ranked in without our knowledge, and there was no data given, and all the data was wrong. So, that's why we were ranked very high, and the following year we suddenly dropped drastically, because we discovered that, the data that they actually have, and, what they think was, part of our international students were actually our own students. So, we need to actually look into this to ensure, that we remain, the data that is given actually remain correct or verified. And I just wanted to say that, whether we will have to carry on as Universiti Malaya to be ranked, so that there will be a university in Malaysia that is actually ranked very highly, that will kind of carry the flag for Malaysia. So one or two university has to be ranked, to be the flag bearer of Malaysia, so that when people look at it and say, well, okay, Malaysia has very good university. within the top 10. I think that's my last slide, Datuk Saleh. I know we are short of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Noorsaadah. Perfect. I think you just exceeded 1 minute, at least from my timing. And thank you for highlighting what Universiti Malaya is actually doing. And I think, you know, in many years ago when none of our universities were ranked, our universities were actually accused of not being up there in the world's best, remember, in the old days? And now when universities are ranked, the question is of we are sometimes, you know, not doing the right thing and kind of. So the discussion will continue, and thank you again for your session. And of course, Universiti Malaya being the flag bearer of Malaysian University, we wish you all the best. And I think you have, you know, strike one important words that I can share now. Maybe we can have further discussion about data integrity. Those data that you actually submit for ranking has got to be verified, and university has got to be fully accountable and responsible for whatever data that you actually provide for, which I think many of us are not even aware of these issues related to data integrity. So let's us move on to our third speaker. Third panel, we have Emeritus Professor Dato Engineer Dr. Muhammad Azraai Kassim. Professor Emeritus has one of the longest serving in academia, even in management. He had served UTM management for so many years, I think over 10 years as Deputy Vice Chancellor in various capacity, research, development, and even academics. And then he became the Vice Chancellor of UITM. And professionally, he is a registered professional engineer and a fellow of Institutions of Engineers Malaysia. He has been, invited to speak to so many transformation plan program, and I think he has so much experiences in higher education. And I think the biggest one, probably, if I can say, was given an opportunity to lead UITM, and I think probably for the first time, UITM was actually ranked, I think last year, Dato Azraai. And so I do not know, maybe you can actually highlight what it means, although you are no longer with UITM now, but I think the ideas and the concepts remains the same. So Dato Azraai, the floor is yours, please, for 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Dato Saleh. Respected Dr. Athif, President of PERINTIS, Prof. Nordin, Forum Coordinator, respected panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank PERINTIS as well as Academy Professor Malaysia for inviting me to be part of this forum. I have 4 points to share in this short discussion. The first is that I would like to start by saying that I'm a great believer in benchmarking. And I've been preaching and practicing benchmarking since 1997, when I was for the first time given the opportunity to become a Dean of Faculty in UTM. And, when you, the objective of benchmarking is basically to identify best practices and try to adopt and adapt them to your organization. When you want to improve, strengthen your organization, you want to improve your performance, enhance your faculty's profile, benchmarking is one of the powerful tools to be used. So we sometimes, we identify a university or an institution, and then we, of course, we do some visits and try to share information and so on. That's how we do it at that stage. And at that time, there were no World University rankings in the late 90s. Ranking started to appear in the year 2004 with the Shanghai Jiaotong rankings. So at that time, we do visits and we try to learn as much, and we try to adopt this when we come back. And I'd like to, used to share this example, since UTM is based in Johor, the nearest universities that we can visit is, of course, overseas is Singapore. So at that time, when I was leading the School of Professional and Continuing Education, when we want to embark on new programs for our school, especially on continuing education, we visited some institutions in Singapore and learned their experience. And I would like to highlight, one example. We were at that time at School of Professional and Continuing Education at UTM doing about 10 courses. This is way back in 2004. 10 courses in conference, short course, workshop per year, 10 per year at that time. And we thought that that's good enough, Of course, PACE have other programs like the part-time degree programs, part-time diploma programs at the time. So when we visited this institution in Singapore, then we realized that they were doing way much better than us. They were organizing like 300 to 500 continuing education programs or short courses, conference, seminars in a year, So that's how it opened our eyes, in these institutions, they're very much ahead of us. And that's when we come back and put our targets and so on, and we managed to achieve this after some time. So that's how we do at that time with benchmarking visit. But it is difficult, because normally when we visit one or two institutions, you get pieces of information here and there. And when rankings come, it comes with the data that they have and not. It is, to me, benchmarking become easy. So to me, rankings is about international benchmarking, and this leads to my second point. That is, and this has been highlighted by the moderator as well as the panelists before me, that rankings are here to stay. Ranking is something that is part of our life. We are used to ranking, but somehow when it comes to university rankings, there are people who say that this is not a good thing and we should stay out of ranking, so on. To me, rankings are here to stay, despite the confusion that people have, that people are not happy with the way the metrics are set and so on. It will be here to stay. Why? Why is ranking here to stay? A lot of people use rankings to decide or make decisions. For example, students and parents. When you want to send, they want to decide where to study. Of course, they want to study at top universities or reputable universities, and ranking provides that information. Similarly, with scholarship awarding bodies, when they want to sponsor students to universities around the world, they will use this information. I've been my own personal experience, doing involved in exhibition overseas, trying to promote our universities, trying to recruit students, approaching student scholarship awarding bodies, and so on. They mentioned this. For example, I was in Uzbekistan, meeting one of the foundations there, and they straight away say that we only sponsor students to top 500 universities in the world, for example. Yeah. So you see, they use the ranking information or data to decide where to send. And similarly with our government, our JPA and so on, they decide where to send based on this ranking data. And also universities, when they want to decide partnerships, research partnership, academic partnerships, they look at your ranking. Yeah. And of course, from experience again, low-ranked universities will collaborate with low-ranked universities, and high-ranked universities rarely collaborate with low-ranked universities and so on. So they also look for high-ranked universities. So this is something that is from experience. And of course, research talent, when they want to do postdocs, when they want to become research officers and so on, they will look at the ranking of the university, so that they get a good experience, because top-ranked universities are universities that will have a lot of grants, industries, and they have a lot of collaboration with the industries and so on. So So again, these are the people who will always use data from ranking organizations to decide where to work, where to send their student, to where to study, and where to send the sponsored students, and so on. So, despite people questioning about rankings, you will stay. Yeah. And if you were to come out of this ranking, there'll be new entrants coming every now and then who believe that ranking will help promote their universities. Okay, my third point is that how will ranking results be useful for university leaders? Yeah. So for those who have been involved in transformation plans, strategic plans trying to transform the universities, data from this ranking is useful because you can set targets and you can set in which you can cascade it down and so on. And we've seen this, how this easy, we can track progress from using the data from the ranking organizations. I remember when UTM and we in 2008 decided, put the target of becoming a top 50 in the world for engineering and technology. And we have, after that, we come up with the strategies and so on. And alhamdulillah, after more than 10 years, the target has been achieved. Yeah. So that's in one of the ranking tables. So with this ranking information, it is useful to track our performance targets. It's easy to see progress and so on in our transformation plan. Second is, of course, university leaders can use them for branding and promotion. Every university, whose university they have a good showing in the rankings, they will put their data on the website and so on, so that this can be used to highlight the profile of their institutions. And people can easily see from their website what a good university they are. And of course, this is again, it will form perception. If your ranking is high, then people will perceive you as a good university. Yeah. But even though you are a good university, but your ranking is low, then people have this perception that you're not a good university. So this is what I found from my experience. So, and ranking is also useful, as mentioned one of the panelists sometimes, it's to improve our processes, especially on data collection, on our digital systems and so on. So to track the data, to collect the data and monitor the data. So with having a ranking, having to submit data to ranking and so on, this will also improve the management processes within the university. So as a university leader, I see a lot of benefit in involvement in the rankings. And this leads me to my fourth point, that which is, because can we come up with our own model of ranking? Is there an alternative to the current rankings? And as shown by Prof. Noorsaadah just now, there are more than, there are at least 6 major rankings that are around. Can we come up with our own model? Yes, the alternative is we can come up with our own. Either your university takes the lead and convince a lot of other universities, or we as a country can come up with our own model. But to get buy-in, to get people to accept the metrics that we have set, it's not going to be easy. And of course, you have to put aside financial and human resources to such an endeavor, because you have to collect data and analyze and so on. So that's one alternative you can do, but it will take a lot of effort. And a second alternative, which is now promoted by World Bank. Yeah? I have a report article by Francisco Marmolejo, the World Bank's lead tertiary education specialist. He suggested an alternative approach to the current rankings, where a number of tertiary education institutions get together to benchmark with peers in a less disruptive and more proactive way than the rankings. Yeah? And this is sponsored by of course, the World Bank, and he gave an example of the initiative, University Governance Screening Card Project, that brings together more than 100 tertiary education institutions from 7 countries in the Middle East and North Africa region. So it's part of the World Bank and Center for Mediterranean Education. So it has been beneficial. Sharing information has been there, and they have improved the organizations. They have put strategies in their plans, and they have improved. So that is another alternative. Yeah. But again, somebody has to sponsor. There's a lot of money involved in doing so. But these are alternatives that we can think of if you want to come up with an alternative system of ranking. But ranking is to stay. Thank you very much, Dato.
Thank you, Prof. Emeritus Azraai. And you are a great believer in benchmarking and sharing the best practices and monitoring progress. And you believe that ranking is one way of actually doing those benchmarking and monitoring our progress and getting and to learn for the best practices. Thank you very much for all the panel. And we receive many questions from I think that we have a channel through FB Lives and also YouTube. And maybe I will post this question to the 3 panel. Some question maybe just require one of you to answer, and some question probably require 2 or all 3 of you to answer. Let us start with the first question from Dr. Suhaimi. Professor Noorsaadah has mentioned that there are so many different ranking systems. I think you will enlist so many of them, and he is asking whether should our university participate in all ranking to assure that we are competitive worldwide. And I think the second follow-up question from me is quite interesting. I think it has been discussed and debated. He said, is it worth our universities to pay fees to ranking providers? And sometimes people say that we are buying into our positions in this ranking. So what do you say about this? Maybe one of the panelists, maybe Professor Noorsaadah?
Thank you, Dato' Saleh. The second question first, because that's very easy to answer. No, we don't pay for ranking. We don't pay, at all for being ranked. And they actually use your data and actually write to you and ask you to verify some of the data that they have in order for us to, for them to actually, do the analysis and rank us. No payment, involved in ranking. Is it worth for our university? The first question was, there are so many ranking in systems out there. Is it, should we participate in all of them? I don't think. In fact, for the 2 as well, if we can, we don't want to participate in terms of, it takes a lot of our time, as Daing mentioned just now, in order to actually look at the data, verify the data, come up with a strategy to actually make sure that the data is correct. But but we will be ranked anyway. So what we want to ensure is, when we are ranked, we look at the indicators and what it is in there, and we actually try to use that as a strategy to make ourselves better. As Dato' Azraai mentioned earlier, that is a way for us to benchmark. But we, when the university first started, wanting to go into the ranking, or not wanting, or actually trying seriously looking at the ranking, that was during Tan Sri Gal's time. Purposely, QS was chosen first because QS, if you notice and you read a lot of this, information, QS is being used a lot by students and parents, particularly our stakeholders, in terms of student choosing where to go. So if you look at the indicators as well, this is you want to go to a good university, or students want to go to a good university, they will look at the QS ranking. So we actually wanted to ensure that our university is there and the students will choose us, particularly international students, because international students actually look at the QS. And then we decided that, after 5 years or 10 years, we'll go into the PhD and make sure that our PhD rank is high, mainly because this is where research is mainly important in terms of the criteria. So I think we don't have to participate in everything, but we can actually look at the indicators of where we want to benchmark ourselves in and what the strategies we want to do, and actually see whether we can actually go into the position, a good position in those ranking systems. That's my answer, Dr. Salim. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe the other panel probably wants to let go of this question because I think Dr. Noorsaadah have actually answered them. Yeah, let us go to the second question, quite lengthy questions by Dr. Iril Yasrin from Harold Ward University. Quite interesting question, I think quite common question that we have in the discussions and debate about ranking. Yeah? And he always see the whole idea of education is to develop the ability of a person to contribute to society globally and also locally by being productive, innovative, and being kind to each other. Yeah? So the question is how participating in university world ranking has been beneficial to us in these aspects, meaning to say, producing graduates who are beneficial, innovative, and of high quality, I suppose. And do we see significant improvement in terms of enhanced intellectual capacities? And so the question is basically, how university ranking has been beneficial to us in this respect, and do we see significant improvement in terms of enhanced intellectual capabilities and contributions of our current graduates compared to those before existence of ranking? So maybe we give the questions to Prof. Dato Daing or Dato Emeritus Azraai. One of you.
Okay, if I may. Thank you, Dr. Saleh, and thank you for the question. Well, I cannot agree with you more. The mission of the university remains as those ideals that from you, and it should continue doing so. And personally, after managing the university for like 11 years, I didn't see the conflict. I do not see the conflict between ranking and the mission that we are the mission that we are pursuing. And in fact, I think we like Dr. Azraai mentioned that we need to benchmark. We need to check. We need the discipline. We need to manage what things that matter to our stakeholders, right? And you keep on doing the right things. The idea, the mission that every university has got, great missions and visions, and the core values that they are sticking onto. Now, in fact, if you say, does it benefit? Yes, I think so. And like I said, like Professor Abdul Noorsaadah said, we don't pay anything. We have nothing to do except some efforts, right? Right. Well, in partnering with the Germans, for example, I saw like partnering with the industry is almost a natural thing in Germany, a natural thing. But in Malaysia, it's not quite that natural. So, but now when we were ranked favorably, we were not ranked on the very top, but favorably, then when we engage our industry partners, they tend to have more confidence in us that we can deliver, and that's a way for us to then again to achieve our financial sustainability objectives, which does not count in ranking, but it matters to us. So that's one example that things that count to us that is not counted in the ranking system. So, and with financial sustainability and improvement in our financial standing, we can do more. We can provide scholarship for the B40. We can do many other things. So I think basically ranking is a part of the ecosystem. You have to manage it. You must make sure that it benefits you rather than impede what you as a university, what we as a university should do. So I don't see a conflict, but it needs to be managed. And it's sort of, when the Dato said we have to manage the data and all that, yeah, it disciplines us also. Managing our information, managing our data, and organize ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Dato Azraai, you have anything to add?
Actually, I like the title of this forum, What's Actually Behind University Rankings? Some people say that when we enter the rankings, we are just aiming for that high positions. But what goes into it? That's actually what has been mentioned by the questioner. When you want to, for example, when we launched this at UiTM, our 2025 UiTM subject plan, the whole idea behind that plan is to transform our staff as well as students to become global players, to see the world as their playing field, So in order to do so, you have to have initiatives, like student mobility programs and a host of other programs in order to do so. Similarly with staff. UiTM, for example, is known nationally because it has got campuses everywhere and people know, but globally it's not that well known. So in order to make our graduates so that our employability will be higher, become employable globally, then we need to have strategies to do that. And that will ensure that our students, our staff will have the intellectual capacity. That's how the capacity building will take place, the character building will take place, the soft skills will be enhanced on. So it's just, there's a host of other things. The ranking is only an outcome to me, It's the host of, like the iceberg. Yeah, the tip of the iceberg is that has been seen is that ranking. But it's the whole set of activities that are below that will ensure that whatever has been mentioned will be achieved. I think that is the whole purpose, and people talk about, of course, you can be in the ranking by paying a lot of money and whatnot, but you don't have to actually, as mentioned by Prof. Noorsaadah. It's actually when you want to attend the activities, you want to attend the seminar, conference, you have to pay. But to just be ranked, you don't have to pay any fees. So I believe strongly in working and focusing on the fundamentals. To be a successful academic, you have to have excellent in teaching, excellent in research, and all about it, and also national, international collaborations, and also leadership. This is as highlighted by Professor Shelda Dabowski in her book, The New Academic. And similarly at the university level, for a university to be renowned and great, it has to be excellent in teaching, which is reflected in the graduate employability. It has to be excellent in research, which is seen in the patterns and the citations and the journals, and also the impact factors and whatnot. And the third thing is, of course, national, international collaborations. Yeah? So these are the things actually that we are after and focus upon. And of course, when you have a wider collaboration with industry, collaborations nationally, internationally, we have wider collaboration with top universities around the world. I think it's a matter of time when good outcomes will happen in the ranking systems. If you don't work on this, you will not come. The expected result will not come.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof. Azraai. There are a few other questions. Let me, some of the questions are actually on the same theme and the same topic, but fundamentally the questions is related to the huge perceptions or opinions rather, that this ranking are actually the business of ranking are actually a form of neo-colonizations and exploitations, and universities are sometimes forced, quote unquote, to follow and being dictated, by the ranking systems, and therefore it impedes our own, despite us declaring we have our own vision and missions, we got to follow, what others think as important. And basically, and these people who actually run the ranking exercise were basically into this for business purposes, to increase their traffic volumes, for basically for business rather than for the benefits of, so the issue probably, that comes to these questions is rather, we always become followers rather than leaders of excellence, benchmarking, and so on and so forth. And maybe the panel can give the views whether whether this ranking system that we follow from outside actually is a new form of colonizations, and do we have our own form of excellence measurements to start with that are actually very suitable for our own countries and our own needs. Yeah? It's a long question, but I think this is a very, so many people are asking about this. Maybe Prof. Noorsaadah, you want to start first?
Let's put it this way. We live in a global world. I mean, we are actually a global world. We don't live in Malaysia only. So, whether you like it or not, the criteria that are being used in ranking, whether it's global or local, is going to be the same. I mean, if you look at what we have developed in terms of Setara and Myra, the criteria are also the same. Okay, we look at the numbers of students, faculty of staff. We look at number of research output in terms of publication. We look at whether this publication has impact in terms of citations. So I don't think it is actually we are following, but actually it is part and parcel of what we do daily. Whether there is a ranking or a system out there or not, okay, I think we will still have the same criteria, that is being developed. There and actually now, if you look at it, THE has started actually, but I think even in the local scenario, in terms of the the system that we use to measure our output and our outcome, has also now started to look at impact, of our product, be it research or students, or our education. The impact is going measure is also now coming in, in Myra, in THE, in QS is starting to come in, and when we talk about impact, there are various impact that we have, either global or local impact. Okay, so both, going to be computed. It's just that it's very difficult for us to measure impact. It may be impactful for one, but not another. So, but these efforts are coming in. So I don't think so, Dato' Saleh. I think we are doing things to measure based on what we think is correct or not. And if you look at the various ranking agencies, they don't come only from the Western. They come from many areas. Even from Saudi for CUWR, which actually measure almost the same criteria. And if I may, I just wanted to add a little bit on on the impact and the contribution to society. I have two examples, which I think, in terms of we need to actually, I mean, we actually kind of benefited and actually need to also look at things properly. One is, when we were first ranked, we were below 100, it was very quiet, but the minute we go above 100 ranking, we have people, industries from outside coming in, saying that, your university is one of the top 100 in the world. So we had the CTO from Toyota in Japan coming in, saying that they want to collaborate and look at our engineers and engineering faculty and send their people over to work with us. And that helps in terms of making our students more globally visible. The other the other thing that actually hits us a lot, especially me, because we had a student who graduated with a PhD in chemistry, actually worked in a company in Malaysia. Okay, and she came back to me and said, what is the difference between her PhD and another person's PhD from NUS. I said, why is it? They say, because, you know, this company pays higher for the students in NUS than a student who graduated from UM. And I said, why is that? They say, because NUS rank higher. But you know, the qualification and the degree is actually the same, and she actually listed out what her job spec is compared to what her colleague from NUS actually job spec is. Actually, there's no difference. So why is it that NUS students are paid higher than Malaysian students? Because NUS rank higher. So you know, I think we need to actually have some of this in context, you know, as well. So you know, why is it important for us? Because you know, it is also to take pride in our own people, in our own education, and also, you know, to make us globally visible, or else we will not be anywhere, you know, in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you know, we are quickly nearing our time at 11. You know, apparently there are so many interests and so many questions still out there, but maybe I just summarize those questions and our panel can do like 3 minutes, you know, wrapping up and, you know, maybe addressing some of these remaining questions that we have from the members. You know, some of the questions are related to whether this ranking reflects quality of education that students actually receive, and whether there is a good ROI, return of investment, for university to actually participate in ranking, and even whether being globally prominence are important for higher education. You know, at least Ministry of Higher Education, the way we see this from the blueprint, would KPI for university ranking be necessary for all the people who will be appointed as vice chancellor? Meaning to say, if you are appointed as vice chancellors, this is where we want you to actually bring the universities to certain ranking. So these are some of the questions that's still remaining, and I'm sorry that if we cannot actually address all the questions by the members. I'm sure that this is not the first and the last session that we have in this series, but maybe we start with Professor Daing, Dato Daing, on, you know, maybe addressing some of these questions and maybe also wrapping up from your side. So we give you about 3 minutes, Dato Daing.
Can I have my slides, please, Dr. Rashda? Okay, what I'm trying to do here is I would like to raise and discuss selected contemporary and emerging issues which I think the ranking system as a dynamic tool or vehicle, whatever you want to call it, may be able to have a role in addressing them in the short as well as in the long run. Is it over there? All right. Okay. If it's not loaded, but never mind. Whatever it is we are talking about, there are a lot of global issues that require that there are solutions, and I think, and okay. The first slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, these are things need to worry for immediate future. You know, from global material demand to depletion of natural resources, waste, and to production lines. So how to solve them without graduates of critical thinking and problem-solving abilities? So we need good graduates. So we need a reputation. We need employer reputation on our graduates, and these employers should be able to give us the feedback what kind of solution that's required by industry, for example. So this should modify ranking over time. Like I said, the global competitive index has changed, you know, evolved itself over time. So ranking, university ranking could also, you know, go through that process. Next, please. And okay, so, and then universities need to feel that there could be be a new renaissance in order to make universities' role central to society. So as learning centers and knowledge, as well as centers that embrace relevance like never before. So our new graduate relevant, referred, respected, and those are the criteria, what you mean by the 3R. So as an employer, where should I go to look? Where should I go to look for them? So we need, so maybe that's what was actually behind ranking. Where do I go for this kind of student? Where are they to be found, in which university? You see, and this is a good thing for the world. Next, please. Okay, and minimizing, we need to minimize the need and resource gap to new graduates. So there are many institutions of ranking of universities, but basically the spirit of all of them are to bring changes to a university environment and eventually the society. So I think ranking will catch up with all these issues and be reflected in their metrics in the future. Next, please. Okay, these are the attributes of the future graduates, and I think by benchmarking, like what Professor Azraai said, by benchmarking, comparing, and look at the issues, I think we should be able to prepare a future-proof graduate, future-proof contributors to the industry, as well to agencies and government and so on and so forth. Next, please. Okay, so the role of academic research, why research performance has a major share in ranking? Well, most academic research is problem-based, and academic research follows systematic and scientific ways of solving problem solving. Academic research embrace rational thinking and so on. So academic research enables more connected networks of universities, including movement of students, academics, and so on. And this is also a good thing. So we are not talking about who's leading, we are not leaders by following. No, it depends on how you benefit from the ranking, how you discipline yourself. Just by going into one ranking doesn't mean that you're a follower, but depends how you manage it. And the word is management. Next, please. Okay, and UN Sustainable Development Goals and University Ranking, you see, and it is now beginning to be reflected. We keep on talking about SDG, but I think THES has been reflecting this, and I think this is a good thing, and this should be part of behind what ranking is all about, how it benefits not the university immediate reputation, but the world at large. Next, please. Okay, that's about it. And I think to answer the return on investment, yes, I think we do not pay for it, but we need a bit of effort. But I think if you manage it well, the benefits will exceed the cost. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato Sri. And maybe Prof Noorsaadah.
Thank you, Dato Saleh. Maybe a short one. Dato Daing referred to the global competitive index, where one of the criteria there is looking at the innovative innovation of the of the country, and this is where also university ranking is actually measured. Actually, they used Shanghai Jiaotong or Shanghai ranking now, okay, as one of the criteria to measure the global competitive index of a nation or a country, and it's very important for us. So that's where the our return of investment is actually. It is not direct to us. To me, it's indirect. When our global competitiveness index is high, industries will come and invest in the country. Okay, that will be our return of investment. So we had actually had discussion with Invest KL, and they actually mentioned the fact that we had now university in the ranking, which is top 100, Universiti Malaya. Investors from industries and investors are starting to come in and saying that, okay, we now see that you have good universities with investment, and I'm sure that's happening also in Penang, with USM being one of the prominent university, and also in Johor with UTM. So I think when we talk about return of investment, we don't see it directly, but it comes to the country indirectly. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof Noorsaadah. Dato Azraai.
Yeah, as I mentioned just now, ranking is not the end all and be all for universities. It's, to me, I see this as information as important in in transforming a university. So in our transformation plans, we need targets, and ranking positions are useful in helping us to set targets for us to achieve certain things by a certain time and so on. So I think what is important is the strategies, the initiatives, the actions that come in order to achieve those targets. That is most important, and that will bring the university from a lower state of performance to a higher state of performance by phases and so on. So, and if there are, that's one point, and if there are rankings that we should focus on, what is most important to students, which based on surveys carried out by QS and so on, to students, the ranking that is most useful for them is the QS subjects ranking, because they want to study in particular area, and they want to know that faculty or that school, how is it ranked, in the world and so on. So that is beneficial. And as mentioned by Dato Sri Daing just now, people always question about ranking not measuring about the vision and mission of a certain university and impacts and so on. I think the THE impacts World University ranking is actually another ranking that is the worst to be given focus, because it measures the university's involvement in the SDGs, which is actually again another global standards or global initiative. So I think these are my 2 points which I would like to highlight. Okay, itu Saleh.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think we are already exceeded by 5 minutes of our time. We do hope that you don't mind us having another 5 minutes to have a little bit of wrapping up. And thank you very much for the panels who have actually provided views on what is behind university ranking. And we can see that based on the questions that we have, there are still some strong supports for the need of the ranking as part of our ecosystem. And also there's a huge apprehensions about ranking, and the questions remain whether there is a necessity for us to actually participate in ranking. So as we expect, this question will continue. But whatever our position is, I believe that it is very important for us to acknowledge a few things. I think we cannot deny the importance of benchmarking and to learn from best practices, and ranking, and also some rating system provide this, which otherwise would be very difficult for us to actually do proper benchmarking and proper best practices. So with or without ranking, the exercise still needs to be done, and in order for us to see progress. And it is also important for us to actually realize that whether we participate or not participating in ranking, it is very important for us to pursue excellence regardless. And therefore we definitely need to decide the niche for excellence. I think this is where university need not to be sold out their souls into the ranking measurements, ranking indicators. They need to be able to decide what would be their niche. I remember one of the most one of the stories where at one point Nanyang Polytechnics were offered to be upgraded into university, and they were very firm in saying that no, we do not want to be second best university, but we want to be the best polytechnics. So basically they know what their niche is, and they want to excel in their choice of excellence. So I think the notions of excellence and the notion that university leaders must be able to know their niche rather than playing to the galleries of indicators are also very important. And I think it is also important for us to take notes as well as actually being spelled out by our panelists that with rankings are actually being seen by many stakeholders, whether we like it or not. Students actually decide. I made a survey myself with all the international students that registered into my class. How did they choose UPM? as an example. And 80% of them were actually looking at ranking, the positions of the ranking before they actually decide to come to our faculties. So whether we like it or not, it becomes, we talk about ROI. This is ROI, brandings, promotions, visibilities, and, getting international students into our country is actually one of the most important agenda that we need to have. So stakeholders for the students, some I think has been mentioned as well, that policymakers do look into, some policymakers do look into the ranking as well. And sometimes our parliament become very, heated argument when our university ranking goes down, university ranking goes up, and who is responsible for this and who is responsible for that. So policymakers do take notes and do take notice of the ranking. So whether we, by choice or not by our choice, it is there. And it's quite obvious also our collaborators are also looking into this. So these are some of the important notes, I believe, and some of the important points. And what is also there for us to be able, especially more so for the academia, we cannot control what the public say and see about the ranking, but the community of academia should be able to see ranking in a proper perspectives. And it is like Prof. Emeritus Azraai mentioned, it is not one and all. It is one of the instruments for us to actually see, and we need to be able to see them in a real perspective, in the proper perspective. They measure different things, they indicate different things. Yeah? But in the whole scheme of things, we all believe that there is a need for us to push for excellence, regardless whether we want to go for ranking or we do not want to go for ranking. So I do hope that we do hope that these discussions to push for excellence rather than to push for positions becoming the central agenda for academia, and this benchmarking and learn from the best are actually one of our important strategy to help the whole higher education system to move further into a global prominence, and at the same time giving their good services to the community and also our local industries. So I think with that, pardon me for not able to entertain all the questions. And I think our panel also are pressed by their time. I'm sure they have so much to say, so much more to say, but they are being compressed by time. So I probably end my concluding concluding remark for this particular forum. Maybe I pass back to our PERINTIS, the organizer, maybe to have some pesanan penaja, if you like it. So, Dr. Rashdan, the floor is yours now.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Dato Muhammad Saleh Jaafar, and all the distinguished panelists for the very enlightening forum. I just need to remove everyone so that you can all relax. Okay, I'm just going to take a minute of your time to promote the upcoming events by PERINTIS. The first one, which will be happening this afternoon, which is a sharing session on how to write a successful MTSF grant. This is brought by PERINTIS Young Professional. Okay, it will be delivered by Dr. Intan Diana Azmi from UPM and moderated by Dr. Fauzan. And another one is a workshop from research to impact, how to write a policy paper. Okay, this will be delivered by Mr. Muhammad Abdul Hamid and Mrs. Nur Asma Ismail and moderated by Dr. Lily Suryanti. And the most important part is actually currently we are having a discount on the membership of Persatuan Saintis Muslim Malaysia. So it is a 50% discount from the lifetime membership fee. So we only have this discount until 16th of June. So we will have another 5 more days. So please take this chance to register and be a member of PERINTIS. Okay, and thank you everyone for joining this event. On behalf of PERINTIS and also Academy Professor Malaysia, I hope that we can see you in the next event in the future. Thank you very much, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and have a nice day ahead.